Hey, welcome everybody to the first GEG Ohio meeting of 2025. Yes, this is our January 2025 Google Educator Group of Ohio meeting. So thankful that you're joining us either live or if you're watching the recording later, hey, that's fantastic too. Thanks, whatever the case, for taking the time to learn with us. Little bit of housekeeping before we dive into things here. So first of all, what is this? This is a typically monthly meeting. We did not have one last month with the holidays, but typically a monthly meeting where we look at everything new in Google for education. We also share some show and tell ideas, some tips and tricks, take questions, and hopefully give some answers as well. To be able to participate as much as possible, what you want to do is have this document open. So you see I've got this document up here on the screen. I will drop the link directly into the chat in case somebody does not have access to that. Let me drop that in there for you real quick. But you can always get to it at our GEG Ohio website. So if you have no other access to it, just head over to bit.ly/GEG Ohio. That'll take you to the main website. And then from there on the main website, there's a monthly meetings section. And then from there, you'll see a list of all the meetings. Here's our January 30th meeting today. And there you'll see the agenda link. So always easy to get to this. But this document is an editable document. As long as you're a member of the GEG Ohio community, you have edit rights. If you're not a member of the community, you have comment rights. So either way, you can definitely contribute to this. And we'll explain in just a couple minutes how you can become a member of the community if you have not done that already. But whether you have edit rights or comment rights, either way, you are absolutely encouraged to add to this document throughout this session. There's a couple of key spots that would probably make the most sense for that. For example, there is a Q&A tab at the very end. Please feel free to add to the Q's or the A's. If you've got questions or if you've got answers, add those in there. There's also a show and tell tab where we share cool things we've come across. And part of that includes a GEG community show and tell. So you could add things to there that you want to do. I would say another good spot might be the upcoming events. If you're aware of any conferences or PD opportunities, virtual or in person or whatever, you want us to be aware of, drop those on the upcoming events tab. So there's definitely some good spots there to contribute to this document. With that said, let's do a couple introductions. We'll do them, and I'm encouraging you guys to do the same. So in the chat, those that are in the YouTube chat, please feel free to introduce yourselves. Let us know where you're from. I see we've got, looks like we got California, we've got Ohio, Iowa, Michigan, New York City. Yes, this is GEG Ohio, but you know, we're open to anybody. Yeah, some of this is going to focus maybe a little bit more on some Ohio things. But if you have an interest in using Google in your school for education, you are welcome here no matter where you are from. So take a moment and say howdy in the chat. I will do my quick intro and then we'll have John do the same. So hi, my name's Eric. I work at the Stark County Educational Service Center, specifically for Spark, which is the ITC portion of that. We provide technology support for about 35 school districts up here in Northeast Ohio. So that's my day job, supporting those schools with professional development and resources and such. John, go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm John Mansell-Pladel, and I work in the northwest corner of Ohio for a similar agency to Eric's. We're a council of governments, and we operate an information technology center, and I head up their professional learning group, and we do professional development for about a little over 100 school districts in the state of Ohio. So
that's fantastic.
That's my day job, and I hail from Australia, if you can't tell, although I've been here for a little over 30 years.
Yeah, well, you know, it's great that you still have that accent though, because you truly bring a level of class to this meeting that I cannot provide when you are not here. And so, thank you so much for doing that. And I do that. I do say that seriously. That's very nice. So let's do this. I'm going to hide our videos so we can look at the shared screen a little bit better here. There we go. And while we're doing some welcomes and intros, I will quickly mention that there's other folks that help out besides myself and John, Stephanie, Sarah, and Denny. Different folks can make things, but if you want to connect with them, they are listed here as well. Let's keep heading down the list of our document tabs here. And by the way, if you don't see those tabs on the side, that's how we're navigating. If they're kind of disappeared for you, you can click on the little tab button up in the top corner there, and that way you can navigate through the tabs. So the next tab down is the important links. So what I would put your attention on, first of all, would be the sign-in form. That's probably the most important thing at the moment. This link takes you to a very simple Google form where you can fill this out and pick today's date for the meeting. And let us know if this is your first time at one of our meetings or not. And that information then allows me to send you a certificate of attendance for attending this meeting. If you need, PD hours, things like that, that allows you to be able to get that. And hey, that's fine if you watch the recording as well. If you're not here live, if you're watching it later on, no worries, still fill that out and I will be sure to get that certificate to you. Next up, group updates. I mentioned just a little while ago that if you're a member of the GEG Ohio group, then you get edit rights to the document. Otherwise, you have comment rights. So this is a Google group that allows us to stay in touch in between the meetings. So on the groups update tab, you'll see the link there to the group and how you can sign up to join that. We have a Facebook group as well, but the email group is probably where we get most of our activity. I think we're probably around just shy of 1,700 members in that group. So I would encourage you, if you haven't joined, to go ahead and do that. That way, hey, anytime between meetings, if you've got a question, a comment, a resource, something to announce, you can connect with all of these other amazing educators. Speaking of amazing educators, I'm going to take a quick look again at our chat and see a lot of other people have said hi. So now I see we've got Rhode Island, and another Ohio with Cuyahoga Heights schools. We've got Albany, New York, Mansfield, Ohio, Green Bay, Wisconsin, another Ohio, Sagamore Hills, Ohio, Illinois, Wheelersburg, Ohio, Bryan, Texas, Palmdale, California. Excellent. I've been to Palmdale. Let's see, on and on and on, Cincinnati and more down there. So, Alberta, Canada. Thank you very much. It's always good to see that we go international. So that's great. Well, we'll keep on saying hi in the chat. And John, if you see anything in there that you need to shout out at any point, please let me know. John does a fantastic job of manning the chat and seeing questions and comments come up in there. All right. Well, next up, we've got a tab of upcoming events. And so we just want to let you know real quick about things that you may be able to participate in. This is the spot where, it's probably going to be a little bit more Ohio specific, although there's stuff here that's not. But for example, OETC, that's the Ohio Educational Technology Conference. That's coming up here in just a couple of weeks. John, will you be at OETC this year?
Yes, all 3 days, presenting on Tuesday afternoon and Thursday morning.
Fantastic. I will be there as well. I did do a blog post a little while back where I listed my sessions. So if you want to try to connect with me, I do have 2 on Tuesday, 1 on Wednesday, and 1 on Thursday. And would absolutely love to connect with folks there at the conference. Other things to get on your radar. This is, again, a little more Ohio-oriented, but hang with me here. Neotech. This is a conference that is being held at the Kent State University. Neotech has been going on for many years. Fantastic, totally free conference. Wonderful. The key thing is you got 1 more day to get your proposals in. So the deadline is January 31st. So that's tomorrow as of this live broadcast here. So I have submitted a whole bunch of sessions to that. So I'm looking forward to participating, but I would encourage everybody else to. This is especially great if you, no matter where you're at in your ed tech journey, if you're like, Eric, I haven't presented a whole lot. I think I'm doing some fun, cool things, but this is the perfect opportunity. It's a nice, smaller scale, as far as a conference goes. And it's a great way to, share your experience with people and start getting more comfortable doing so. On the other hand, if you're a seasoned pro and you've been doing this a long time, then we absolutely welcome you as well to do that. So that's coming up. We got McCall shortly after that in Michigan, which is pretty close for a lot of us Ohioans. Here's a virtual one that I'm part of, SequoiaCon. I will let you know this is not free. SequoiaCon does have a cost with it. I'm always really careful about that to let people know if things are free or if they have a cost. But this is a virtual one, so anybody could take advantage of this in April. This one focuses on AI in education. I will be doing a session for that one. Another key thing about that is you can register up to the last minute, but they do have early bird pricing, and that ends February 1st. So that's another one of the things, if you're trying to do, just heads up, you got a couple more days to sneak in with early bird. And of course, they give all of us presenters, they give us all a coupon code. So anybody can use Control-Alt, for example, to get $50 off your registration. They do that for anybody who's presenting. They give us coupon codes to share with folks. So that's coming up. And then hey, next up, the High Impact Conference for Educators. So this is what used to be the Spark Conference. Well, it still is. It's just we've merged. So the Stark County Educational Service Center, where I work, the ESC, has done the HICE Conference for many years, the High Impact Conference for Educators. The ITC portion of the ESC, the ITC, which is Spark, where I work, we've done the Spark Conference. Well, last year we decided to put peanut butter and chocolate together and, and make it better. And so that is what we have done, and that's what we're doing going forward. So we're combining the forces of the ESC and the ITC together for the HICE conference going forward. And this year it's going to be June 10th and 11th. Likewise, call for proposals are open for that. So I believe April is when those wrap up. Yeah, we're shooting for April 4th. So you got a little bit of time on that one, but that's going to be held locally here. I'm trying to remember. I believe we are I think we're at Canton South this year. Yes, we're at Canton South High School. So that is where that'll be held at. We try to pop around between different local schools each year, gives the schools a chance to host the conference and show off their awesome buildings as well. And that is a totally free conference. Everybody's welcome to present and attend there. If you missed last year's, do note, Matt Mays shared this bit of information here. These are the recordings from last year's conference. Not every session, but about 30 of them got recorded. And so if you missed last year's HICE, you can have a second helping. You can head on into that link and you can catch those recordings. And then lastly, ISTE will be shortly after that. I am presenting at ISTE this year. I've got a link in here to the current roster of my ISTE sessions. My guess is this will grow as we get closer, as is typically the case usually, but these are the official starting sessions I will be doing. I've got five sessions at the moment that I'm doing there at ISTE. So that's a lot. So those are all the upcoming events that are either local or at least are impactful enough that we felt it was worth sharing those. Anything, John, you want to add to that? Anything I missed on upcoming events?
I'm just going to mention there's 5 of us from Northern Buckeye presenting at McCall this year.
Nice.
Which is so it's a conference that alternates between Grand Rapids, Michigan and Detroit, Michigan. Grand Rapids being a 3-hour drive and Detroit being about an hour and a half. So
right.
It's always good when it's a little bit closer like that.
Yes,
and
yes.
It's maybe a little bigger than OETC, probably around 4,000 teachers, I think, go to McCall. But it's a great place to pick up ideas. And
absolutely,
that's for us going and getting new ideas to bring back so that we can share with our districts is really the reason why we go to those kinds of conferences. And fantastic that you're doing 5 sessions at ISTE. I haven't been to an ISTE in a very long time, but going from strength to strength, that's wonderful. Wonderful to see Ohio represented so well at that national conference.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm so glad you guys are at McCall. I've been there several years, on and off here and there, and it's always been just a fantastic conference. I would agree. It's a great size. You're going to get a lot of awesome folks, but also not be overwhelmed, not like the size of like ISTE or something like that. And being so close by, it really is great. So if you're anywhere in Northern Ohio, I think you should definitely consider that. So thanks for representing us there, John. That's fantastic. All right. Well, again, if you guys have something to add, please feel free to, this is a good tab to put things on. So if you have other conferences or things you're aware of, feel free to drop those in there. Well, at this point, we are going to move into the main meat of our session here. We try to focus on each month, what's new in Google? What has come out? Google releases a lot of new stuff. And so I do my best to keep an eye on it, reading all the blog posts and following all the updates, and I drop them into the document. Now, it's been 2 months since our meeting. Like we said, we didn't do one last month with the holidays, but I'm not going to go through 2 solid months of content. As always, you'll notice I put a bolding format on any of the dates for the options, for the updates I decided that I thought would be the best ones to share. So you'll see there's maybe a dozen, I don't know, 13, 14, not too many, but I picked from those the ones that I thought were probably going to be the most relevant. But let us know if there's something I'm skipping over. Let us know. Ask a question in the chat or add a comment into the document, or feel free just to check out the resource links yourself if you want to investigate more of these. Do note we do use the little emoji key here to let you know what tier these things are. If you're using the free version of the Google Education Suite, I just use the regular, like the fundamentals. I went with the building block, so it's like a block, like a brick wall there, and then going up from there, standard, teaching and learning plus. And then the Gemini add-on is a separate thing that can be purchased as well. So when relevant, some of these it doesn't apply, but when relevant, I've added those in to try to have a little more transparency about which of these things require particular tiers as well. All right.
Eric, I'll just add one thing at this point. What I've noticed this year is that more districts are now choosing to update their subscriptions, and I have quite a few districts now that are using Education Plus because of some of these features that especially the ones for Google Classroom that have been announced. And it's the value proposition for a lot of districts now is getting to the point where many of them are starting to think about this in the short to medium term. So if you don't have it yet at your school, that's definitely something that a lot of schools are looking at putting into their budgets.
And I would echo that, John. You're absolutely right. Early on, I would say the biggest thing about Plus, teaching and learning and Plus and those up there, it focused a lot on things like Google Meet, so for people, especially during the pandemic, who really started using Meet a lot and then relied heavily on it, there's a lot of really nice extra features in Meet, the permanent recording, the breakout rooms, things like that. Classroom was the other area that got a lot of love, things like unlimited originality report checks, things like that. But over time, you're right, they've added more and more and more and more things to the Plus tier. But here's where I'm going to definitely agree with you on this. Sometimes there's been a level of frustration. I'll be honest. There have been things that have popped up and I'm like, I wish that was free. I wish everybody had access to that. Now we do have Education Plus there at our at the ESC, so I do have access to Plus. But I feel bad for others. Like, this is such a nice feature. Everybody should have it. What I've noticed recently, though, is they're starting to add some things, and this is smart. They really needed to do this. They're starting to add some things that potentially could replace services schools are already paying for. That's what's necessary, is to say, oh, wait, if I get Plus, you mean I can cancel this other thing I'm already paying for? Oh, okay. Now it's not so expensive. So it's one thing when they were just adding cool new features, and that's great. I love that. But it's really critical for Google if they're going to, this is really what they're pushing. it needs to be something that's defensible, where you can say, well, listen, if we pay for Plus, we're going to cancel this one, and this one. And, we don't need this because it's picking those up. Give us a little bit. One of the last updates in this list speaks to that. There's an update that I'm very optimistic about, may end up helping save schools some money long term. So thanks for mentioning that, John. I totally agree with you. All right. Well, with that said, let's see what's new in Google Workspace for Education. So starting back in December, one of the first things I'm going to mention here is the new granular control options for Google Forms as far as who can respond to a form. If you haven't seen this, this is a really important one to be aware of because it really does significantly change how you send out a form going forwards. Heads up, it does not affect pre-existing forms. You don't have to go back. You don't have to change all your other forms. But let's say I go ahead and create a form here. So just make a form. And let's say I want to share this out. So we'll just call this a test form here. Let's say I'm ready to share this form out. What would I have done in the past? Not much. I mean, I pretty much would have hit the eyeball button, and I would have grabbed the link and I would have copied the link and I would have sent that link out to somebody. That's the old approach. I may have gone into my settings, and made sure that it wasn't just locked to, my school district, but that, it was available for everybody, but that's the default. I mean, it's by default, it's set up so anybody can respond. So if you're in that habit, like, oh, that's all I got to do. Sorry, folks, that's not going to work anymore. If you just say, oh, I hit the eyeball button, I copied that. Well, they're trying to warn you. They're saying, hey, this form isn't accepting responses. You need to manage the publish settings. So this is new. This is new. So what's going on here is a couple of things. So first of all, when you create a form now, think of it like a Google Doc. It's very much like that. You pretty much need to share the form with the people that need to fill it out, not just people who would edit it. So for example, there's this little plus button up here next to this little person. That's the share button. If I click on that, you'll see here's the normal editor options. We've always had that to give somebody else editing rights to the form. But see here, responder view. Aha. Now we can come in and say who's allowed to respond. And it can be restricted. If you say it's restricted, it's only whoever you put up here in this top box. So if you say restricted, you have to specifically put people's email addresses, or you have to put, the groups they belong to. You have to specify that. Or you can say, oh no, it's everybody in my organization. Or you can say, oh no, it's everybody on the internet. So you have to go in there and specify who's allowed to respond to it, but it is more granular. It doesn't have to be just, what was it in the past? It was basically everybody on the internet or everybody in my school. That was pretty much it. That's all you had. Well, now you can say restricted and then specifically list, 5 people or 10 people or a group or 3 groups of people, so you can really narrow down who's allowed to respond. The point is, once you've done that, you still have to publish the form. Just doing that's not enough. So we got to go to publish and we got to hit this publish link here. And then now it's published. Now the form is published and we've said who is allowed to fill it out. So that's just heads up. It's a change. I think it's a change for the positive because what it means is I have more control over who can respond. Instead of saying everybody in the world or everybody in my school, I can say, oh no, just the people in this Google group. And that's it. Those are the only people that can respond or such. But it does mean more hoops to jump through. So just wanted to make sure people were aware of that before it catches somebody off guard and they send out a link and people can't click on it and open it. We don't want that happening for folks. All right. And again, John, I'm going to leave it up to you to holler at me and let me know if something comes up in the chat. I'll do my best to keep an eye. Oh, I do see. It looks like a question came in about, will this work with contact groups? So my guess is yes, but don't forget how contact groups work. So a contact group is when you build your own custom list of people inside of Google Contacts rather than going into Google Groups. So a contact group, and I probably would have one here if I tried. Let me pull that. Let me pull that A4. I don't know if I can pull. I guess I could go into my history and pull it back up. It's probably sitting there still. Let's see if I can grab that that form real quick there. Yeah, there it is. Oh, I'm in preview mode. There we go. So if I go into this form and if I go to share this and I say that it's going to be restricted, if I came in here and I started typing in like test, I get a bunch of test users. I wonder if I have a test group. I might not, actually. That's the thing. I'm afraid. I was trying to think if I had a group. I guess I could do like, let's do this. Let's do the tech integration group. So tech int. Nope, that's a Google group. I'm trying to think of one that I've got. Okay, I may not have one quick enough that I can pull up, but here's the point. Yeah, when you put in a contact group, as soon as you do that, you've probably seen this in like a document or a Gmail message. It expands out the contact group immediately. So if you've got a contact group with 20 people, when you type in a contact group and hit enter, it's going to go bloop and it's going to expand that out into all those 20 individual people. Where if you add a Google group, it doesn't expand out. It just represents however many people are in there. Why is that important? Well, Google does put a limitation on how many people you can share things with. I think it's still 200. John, let me know if it's changed, if you know differently. But if I share a Google Doc, a Google site, a Google form, I can explicitly share it with 200 unique email addresses. Well, that's why Google Groups are helpful. A Google group counts as one email address, but it can represent, 1,000 people or whatever. It only uses up one. Where if you use a contact group, as soon as you put that in, it's going to expand and it's going to count for every single person in that contact group. So that's my guess on that as far as how it would apply to a contact group. If you discover something differently, John, let me know. But that's would be my thought as far as contact groups go. And I apologize. I thought I probably had a contact group quick enough I could throw in there, but I don't remember. I thought I probably had a test one, but I couldn't think of it fast enough what I called it. So, all right, good stuff. Well, again, if you see something there, feel free to holler and let me know, and we can address any of those things. All right, let's keep on moving. So next down, build high-quality modern documents faster in Google Docs with 40 new templates. All right, so Google Docs has now added a new set of templates, 40 new templates to Google Docs. They're cool, they're neat, but it's a little confusing how this has been done. So I think as much as I'd like to say, oh, this is just a really neat new update, I think it's critical that we talk about it because it has changed sort of the flow of how templates work in Google Docs. Okay, so just for clarification, in the past, if I were to go to my Google Docs app, I would have had across the top of the screen a template gallery up here. And if I came up here and I clicked on the template gallery, I would see any templates that we have at my school. And then I would see general templates like essays and book reports and letters and resumes and whatever. Okay, that has not gone away. That still exists. This update has nothing. This is a totally different template gallery, which there's where the confusion comes in. There are now 2 independent template galleries and they don't cross over at all. So there's, let's take it this way. So here is let's call this the old, maybe we should say classic. Let's say this is the classic template gallery. Okay. So to get to this one, I either go to the Google Docs app. From my waffle menu, I go to Docs, and then from Docs, I see the template gallery at the top. I expand it out and I get to it. That's one way to get to it. The other way is through Drive. So if I go to Google Drive and I use the new button in Drive, if I say new Google Docs, but then I go to the little arrow and I say from a template, that's the classic template gallery. If I click that, yep, old school classic template gallery. Here's the ones we as a district have uploaded. Here's the general ones. So you probably have like letterheads and all kinds of things that you have put in there as your district. That still exists. What's different? Okay, so here's what's different. So let's say I have a new document now. This button here at the top that says templates that's not the same template gallery. And if I go File, New from a template, that's not the same template gallery. So that's where the change is. If I click either File, New from a template, or I hit this template here, aha, this is not the same template gallery. This is a totally different one. And it's good. There's a lot of great stuff in here, but there's no connection. If you put something in the other one, like your school templates, they are not going to show up here, at least not today. Who knows? I can't imagine. I don't know. Maybe they'll merge them at some point. That would be nice. But so that's the first big difference, is you do not get to them the same way. The second difference is these templates are pageless templates. So if I come in and say, oh yeah, I want to do this class notes one, and I click on it and I go ahead and say, let's create that. You'll notice that it has converted this document into a pageless document. If I go into the page setup, you'll see I'm in pageless mode, not pages mode. So these are all pageless templates, where my guess is I think everything in the classic gallery, I'm pretty sure all of these are paged templates. They're not pageless templates to my knowledge. So there you go. There's a lot, there's good stuff in there. I mean, there's nice things in this template gallery here. So again, if I go File, New Template, but just be aware, it's in a totally different way. The other one is still there, and these are all pageless rather than paged templates. So I could see somebody who has come to rely on your template gallery, and suddenly they try to follow the old approach. Because in the past, you could do that. You could go File, New from template, and you would get to the old template gallery, the classic one. You definitely could have some staff who are confused as to, why can't I find our letterhead? Why can't I find our lesson plan template? Why can't I find whatever? They have to go this other route to get there. All right. John, questions, comments, thoughts, anything you've seen popping up about that or previous things?
I think it to me, it seems like what they did with Google Sites and then new Google Sites. So probably eventually we'll merge it, but having they've probably got two teams working on two separate products, and they haven't found a good way to integrate them yet.
Yeah, my hope is it does get integrated, because it is a truly valuable feature for a school district to be able to upload their own templates to a gallery. I think that's really useful. I would be heartbroken if they lost that in this overall process. So let's hope that is not the case.
But I think it's interesting that even a small change like this for our regular users of the Google tools, there was a lot of discussion about the publish button in the GEG group emails that came out over the holiday break, and people were kind of losing their mind a little bit about this button, that they couldn't do things that they used to do. So we need to be mindful of the fact of really explaining well to our people that these changes have come about. And so that's what makes this update so valuable every month, is that we can kind of get the latest information to share with our teachers.
Excellent. And it does look like Dan must have tested this out with the contacts. Yeah, if you've got a label in contacts, that's basically what they call them in your personal contacts. If you put that into a form to share it, it will autofill all the contacts from that group. They'll all expand out. That's what I thought would happen. Apologies, I just couldn't think of a contact group.
And I quickly looked up in Gemini. You can share up to 200.
That is still accurate.
Individuals, that is accurate. Yeah. And you can have 50 people in your document at a time, which was, I think I knew that, but that's.
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, 50 people can be actively editing a document. If you get more than 50, they can be there. It just switches into view only mode at that point for plus 50, anybody that's past that. But awesome. Well, hey, how about that? Like I said, the smartest person in the room is the room. So between everybody here, I think we have been able to figure a lot of that out. I'm going to go ahead and close out of my tabs before I make a mess, and let's keep on moving. Please do exactly what everybody's doing, though. Drop things in the chat. poke a stick at things, try it out. Let us know what happens. We can all figure this out if we crowdsource all of this together. Awesome. All right, what's up next? Break down language barriers with auto dubbing on YouTube. Now, I do have access to this. I don't know that everybody does. There's a lot of things in here where it talks about rolling out, expanding, and so forth. So I don't know that everybody has access to this, but I do, so I'll show you what it is. So the idea is when you upload a video to YouTube, the default now is going to be, unless you turn it off, YouTube will take your video and it will create alternate versions of it that are dubbed in another language. So if you upload a video in English, you will automatically get French, German, Hindi, Indonesian, Italian, Japanese, Portuguese, and Spanish versions. You don't have to do anything to make that happen. It just happens. And by dubbing, what I mean is a voice replaces the voices in the video. A new voice gets put in place of it that is saying the same words, but in that other language. So let me show you what I mean by that. Let me grab real quick my, I'm gonna have to pull this over. Here's my YouTube channel here. If you go into the languages section, so this is the behind the scenes, this is like the creator studio there in YouTube. This is my personal channel here. If I go in to my studio, my YouTube studio, there's now a languages tab over here. If I click on the languages tab, it'll show me all the videos that I have uploaded since this change occurred. So my hundreds of videos prior to this are not getting retroactively applied, but notice, for example, I recently did this one on the one word of the year, where you pick, a word for the year, and I have a template for that. And it says it's been put into 10 languages. So if I come in here to this video, you'll see I've got a French, German, Hindi, Indonesian, Italian versions of this. What that means is when somebody goes to watch my video, they can actually switch to that language if they want to. So let me try to open up the video and I'll show you what that looks like. Let me see. Maybe it won't let me open it from there. Will it? Maybe if I open it from here. Open it up in a new tab. Oh, there we go.
Hey,
Okay.
this is Eric, and in this video,
Okay, so that's the original video over there. So what if I come over here and I go to the settings? From the settings, if I go into the audio track, see, there it is. There's this under the settings, there's an audio track. If I click that, I can now say, oh, I want this in Spanish. Let's hear that.
Hola, soy Eric y en este video veremos cómo crear una palabra única del año con mi plantilla de palabras.
And there we go. And so that's the idea, is that basically, if you're trying to reach out to a broader audience, and maybe in your school district, you have, parents where English is not their first language, students likewise. If your school is generating content, and in the past, you're like, oh, I've got to jump through all these other hoops to try to get, another language version of this. Well, I mean, YouTube has always had the closed captions that can be put in another language, but it didn't have the dubbing. Well, it's there now. And so again, I'm not sure. I don't think I did anything special to get it, but they make it sound like it's something that maybe is still rolling out. I would check and see if you have that languages thing there. But wow, what a great way to be able to tell your community, your parents, your students, when we put videos up, they will have, these 9 other languages that you can pick from to listen to. So I think that's a really nice step forward. And this is something that's not like new. I think it was maybe, good grief, 2 years ago, at least 2 years ago, they announced this, and there was like a beta program from it. So I remember when this came out, 2 years ago, and it was all beta, and it took this long, and now it has officially launched. So good stuff then. Seeing folks saying that is amazing. That's great. I'm glad you guys see that as well, that you agree. Great for ESL students, for lecture videos. Shannon was asking if we have to go into studio and do anything on your end. I didn't, but the blog post here does explain that if you're not seeing things, that you can go into your YouTube studio and double check that. I went in and mine was just turned on. I didn't have to like flip a switch or something like that. I know you can go in and override it the other direction. Like I can go in and I can delete or unpublish the dubbed versions of it. But yeah, normally, like I says, no need to do anything special. YouTube will automatically figure out the language and create those dubs for you. So, all right, good stuff. Let's keep on moving. What is up next? Okay, next up, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Just a quick heads up. Google announced Gemini 2.0 as their next model. It's not available to everybody yet. So if you're still using like the free version of Gemini, you're probably using 1.5, I'm pretty sure is what you're going to have. But if you have the paid version of Gemini, you can try out 2.0. It's going to be in the drop down of the different models you can pick from. You'll be able to pick it out of that list. Basically, the good news is just, hey, it's bigger and better. And I have tried it out, and it is. I agree. I do have the paid version of Gemini, so I have tried out 2.0. And yes, I am getting much better responses, more thorough responses. It's understanding way more complicated prompts that I throw at it that might have tripped up earlier versions of Gemini. Eventually, I'm sure everybody's going to have access to it. But I think I said right now, probably 1.5 is what you're seeing on the free version. But 2 is I'm sure going to be available to everybody eventually. Other things they mentioned in this besides version 2 rolling out was that they've got some other projects in the works. I will not go into depth on these because this is more of just a, hey, coming soon kind of thing. We don't really have access to these yet. Well, I don't have access to these yet. Things like Project Astra. That's the one where you can point your phone or your camera at things, and Google's AI will be able to just look in real time and can remember up to the last 10 minutes of what it has seen. So you can be walking around with you, viewing things, and it can take in the whole world and give you feedback on the last 10 minutes of anything that it's seen. Certainly a lot of value can come from that, whether it's just from your daily use or if it's somebody who needs that support, maybe an assistive technology approach to that, being able to view the world around you and give you feedback on it, but we could all benefit from as well. Like saying, hey, where did I leave my key? The other one was Project Mariner, which is their version of kind of like ChatGPT's operator, where you're giving Gemini access to your browser. You're letting it control your computer. And so it's clicking and doing things for you on your computer. Very common. Most AI tools are now starting to incorporate live video processing and agentic type behaviors where the AI controls your screen within reason, where you still have to give it permission to do things and monitor and stuff, but more and more of that. So just wanted to let you know, those are some of the things on the horizon when it comes to 2.0. With
Hey,
that.
Eric, I just asked Gemini in our version, and we don't have the paid one. And I said, what version of Gemini are you? And it said, I'm currently running on the Gemini 2.0 Flash experimental model.
Excellent. So that is good. So that means that it is the Flash version, not the Pro version, but that's great. I'm glad to hear that. So Flash is very common for them to do on the free versions. That is the a little bit of a little more lightweight version. But what they have found is that Gemini 2.0 Flash is more powerful than 1.5 Pro. So you're already above that. But so yeah. So and I apologize because I pay for it. Sometimes I don't remember which ones are free and which are not. When I go in, I do have access to 2.0 Pro. So I wasn't always sure. So thanks for clarifying that, John. I appreciate it. That is, if we can believe Gemini, unless it's lying to us. I mean, could be hallucinating, At least it didn't say Chat GPT, 03 or something like that. That would have been a problem. Let me see. There was another question. I think this is about the dubbing. Does it only overwrite your voice or all audio? Like if there's music, does it get rid of that? Dan, I'm sorry, I don't know. I don't think any of the videos I have there would have had music in them. I'll have to go back through and poke a stick at it. I do apologize. That one that I was showing, it was just me talking. There wasn't additional audio that was being processed. So I don't know. Good question. All right. Speaking of Gemini, though, I will mention this one real quick, deep research. So this is another thing that came out of this announcement here. So deep research is a new mode for Gemini. And I can show you what it looks like. I do have access to this. It's a new mode where basically what you do is you ask it a question, and instead of getting an answer right away, they're saying, well, what about this? What if you give me some time and I really do a deep research on this, and I'll get back to you in 10 or 15 minutes. And then you come back and Gemini has put together this amazingly detailed response. That's what deep research is all about. So I'll show you a quick example here. So here is this on my personal account. So I'm using, in this case, I'm using deep research in the 1.5 Pro. That's what they've got it attached to. That's where the deep research is. And I started by asking it, research the impact of microplastics on marine ecosystems. So maybe I'm a teacher that's teaching this. I'm a student who is researching this. But again, it can be any question. I've asked it to help me plan a vacation. I mean, I've asked it all kinds of questions. And what it does is it puts together a plan. It says, okay, here's my plan. I think I would like to do this to be able to analyze your question. Does that sound good? You say, yep, it sounds good. And then it says, okay, here you go. And it comes back with a way more detailed response that has references. Now, this one, it referenced 29 websites. I've had it do this where it referenced 200 websites. It just depends on the topic. But it goes out and reads all of these websites, and then it creates a response where it has actually put in here specifically, this is where I got that from. And so it gives you the references for every single thing that it's mentioning here. So you're basically getting footnotes all the way through. So you can go out and fact check all of this. And it's a much more deep level thinking response to the question. So not always perfect. I would say the thing that I have noticed as a weakness is the vetting of the resources. You get the idea. Garbage in, garbage out. If it accidentally grabs a website that it thinks is going to help answer this, but that website itself is kind of poor quality, unfortunately, once it grabs it, it doesn't seem to be able to realize that that wasn't the best one. Like I asked it about AI. I was like, something, I don't remember. It was something along the lines of, I was doing a training on AI for social studies teachers. And I said, hey, let me ask deep research. What are some creative uses of AI for social studies? And it was really good, but it did grab one website in the process that it was a really low quality website. Unfortunately, a lot of the information was just flat out wrong. It just wasn't even accurate. And a lot of it was also outdated. But it ingested that, and it ended up it was able to do a great job footnoting it, but it wasn't able to do a great job realizing, wait, this does not click with everything else here. So I think there's definitely room for growth. So as always, please, please, please do exactly that. I clicked the links. I'm like, that's an interesting idea. I didn't think about that. I clicked the link. I followed that and went, no. What they're saying is not accurate. And that is not how that tool works. You are not able to do that with that tool, and so you still do need to do your part of this. That's never going to change, just because an AI said it doesn't mean it's true. Our students need to know this. We need to know this. But this is a step in the right direction. At least we're getting references, and we're getting a little bit more time being put into the construction of the response. So just wanted you to be aware of that. Let's pause there for a second and see if anything is popping up from that. Nope, doesn't look like it. All right. Excellent. I did see David asked he asked DeepSeek if it was better than ChatGPT. And so we probably won't turn this into a DeepSeek conversation here, since this is, more focused on Google things, but it crosses over because DeepSeek is a competitor, so to speak. I mean, it's open source, but it's a competitor to Gemini. And so, if we have time and if people want to chat about that, we certainly can. I think it's a very rich topic to jump into. All I'll say is I have used DeepSeek on the web, but I've also installed it locally on my computer, because you can do that. You can actually download a distilled version of it, and I've been able to run three different versions of DeepSeek locally on my own computer, and it's really neat. I think it's a neat discussion to start talking about. I think there's a lot of schools that have an interest in bringing AI in-house and saying, you know what if we set up our own AI server locally in our district that we control? And so like DeepSeek, even though, yes, I understand it was created by China, if you download it, well, then you've got it. It's not going back out to China to ask questions. You have it right there. And I'm not even saying use DeepSeek. You could use Llama, you could use something else, but it really opens up this question. If I can run this on my home computer, what could a school district do if they put together a server with enough GPUs and enough memory to say, we're bringing the AI in-house, so nothing leaves, it all stays inside? So that's a whole other discussion for another day. But thanks, David, for at least bringing up that topic. All right, let's keep going. What else? NotebookLM gets a new look, audio interactivity, and a premium version. I know I've talked about NotebookLM before. I will not rehash the entire thing, but I did want to let you know that it has gotten a few quick updates here. Let me go ahead and I'll just pull up NotebookLM, and I'll drag it over from my other screen here. So here we go. So here's NotebookLM, and I'll just grab the one that I show off a lot of times. This one was pretending to be a teacher who is teaching about the Cold War. And as a teacher, I have uploaded like all of my slideshows and all of my study guides, and I've uploaded videos, or I've linked in videos that I teach with. Basically, NotebookLM, if you're not familiar with it, to keep this as quick as I can, it is Gemini. This is Gemini, but it's a wrapper, so to speak, around Gemini. So you're still talking to Gemini, but what you're doing is you're able to load it up with up to 50 of your own sources. So rather than just going to Gemini and saying, hey, Gemini, what do you know about XYZ or something? You come here and you click add source, and you upload your own PDFs, your own audio files, your own Google Docs, Google Slides, websites, YouTube videos, whatever, up to 50 items. And then after you've built your own corpus of knowledge here, now you start chatting with it. And guess what? It's not just pulling from all the knowledge on the internet. It's reading your vetted files. So you can say, hey, this is what I teach with. I use all these slideshows and all these study guides, and I use this video. And now I can ask it questions on my content, and it can generate, study guides and timelines and DOK leveled questions, whatever you want. So it's just like using Gemini or ChatGPT if you can give it up to 50 files to work on, which is really nice. So what's new? Well, the layout is new. So now they've changed it. So you've got sources over here, you've got the studio over here where you create things, and you've got the chat in the middle. So that's nice. The other thing they updated was the audio overview. I won't take the time to run through the whole thing right now, but if I were to come here and load this audio overview, what this is, the audio overview is like a pretend podcast where you have two AI co-hosts that are talking about your files. So in this case, I basically told the AI, I said, hey, I want you, when I click to do an audio overview, I said, let's have this audio overview be for 8th grade students that are learning about the Cold War. Please focus specifically on the Red Scare. Make sure you make this understandable but engaging for 8th grade students. And so then it generates, in this case, a 14-minute audio overview of that. So if I hit play, I'll just play a couple seconds. You'll hear this.
All right, class. Today we're going to be taking a deep dive into one of the most intense chapters of the Cold War. The Red.
And again, there's 14 minutes. It's a male and a female co-host who go back and forth talking about the information. So what's new? This button is what's new, interactive mode. So what this does is it allows you to interrupt the podcast and ask questions. Now, yes, the podcast is pre-generated, so the podcast itself that's not going to change. There's still 14 minutes of content. But what it'll do is if I go into interactive mode, and I can't do this right now because I'm using my microphone already for this, so I can't actually show it to you because my mic is tied up with what I'm doing here. But when I go into interactive mode, if I were to do that, then I could click on my microphone while the podcast is playing, and I could say, hey, I've got a question. And the podcast pauses and the live AI kicks in and says, oh, hey, we've got a caller. And then you can say like, can you tell me more about, blah, blah, blah. And then the AI will pause for like 5 or 10 seconds. And then a new clip gets generated where the hosts say, oh, that's a great question. They'll answer it, 2, 3, 4 minutes. Then they'll say, okay, well, let's get back to what we were saying. And then it picks back up into the original. So what a neat way. Even if whatever it generates for you, you can now actually chime in and ask it questions. The way that Google kind of promotes this is, let's say you're learning something and you just don't quite understand. It's not the best explanation and you want to dive deeper into it. You can now, interrupt that podcast and get more details. So there you go. So just wanted you to know that's the updates. It's all good. And yes, there is now a paid version like they mentioned, but everything I showed you there is free. That's all absolutely free. The paid version, I'm going to forget exactly. It's got higher limits as far as how much content you can load. There it is. Subscribers will receive 5 times more audio overviews, notebooks, and sources per notebook. So right now you're limited to 50 sources and 1 active audio overview. So that means you can do 5 different audio overviews per notebook. And I would assume that means, 250, sources in each notebook. So basically it's 5 times as much stuff. So, and of course, you can always delete or you can download an audio overview and generate a new one. But this is basically saying you can do 5 at once without having to, download and delete previous ones. Whew. All right. Let's pause there. John, looks like you had a question you were wondering about. Whoops, I think you're muted there, John.
Yeah, I was just wondering, they only have those 2 voices. And I think after you've heard a couple of these, I don't know what the impact would be for students if they basically all sound the same. So it would be awesome to have a couple of different voices that you could have for a podcast.
Without a doubt. And I'm positive that's coming. I can't imagine they're not going to do that. I don't know if that's going to be part of the paid version that lets you pick different voices or if everybody's going to get that. But right now, yeah, it is English only at the moment, and it's just those 2 voices. So we'll see. All right. Nicole says she enjoys interrupting the AI voices. That's great. Anything else here? Looks like everybody's just commenting on how that's pretty cool. All right. Shannon asked, had a teacher share her podcast with another teacher with the share button, and it went from 16 minutes to 26 minutes, and not sure why the files were the same. I don't know. Shannon, I'm not sure about that. It sounds like it got regenerated, but I'm not sure why that would have been the case. Hey, Matt. Yeah, I didn't get to see that SNL one yet, but I heard about that. So SNL had a great parody of the AI voices this last weekend. I saw it pop up in my YouTube feed, and I did not even get a chance to click on it. I'm usually really good about that, but I got distracted this week with some other things. So I will have to circle back around. That has been on my watch list to catch that. So thanks for reminding me about that, Matt. All right. So this is great. Thank you, Dan. Dan said you can cause the AI to speak in another language by intentionally putting that in the custom instructions. So thank you, Dan. That's a great workaround. I guess what I meant to say was there's not like a drop down yet. And I believe there will be an option just to pick the language in the future. But Dan, thank you. Great suggestion as far as a workaround. When you generate those audio podcasts, there's a custom instructions box. You can say, like I said, make this for 8th grade students, make it engaging and understandable. You could say, do this in Spanish. So I really appreciate that. Thanks for that. That's a great tip. All right, let's keep going. Let's see what else we need to touch on here. Whisk is another AI tool that caught my eye over the last month or so. Whisk is an AI image generation tool from Google. I'm going to pop on over to the Whisk website here. And there's so many, oh my gosh, there are so many AI image tools out there. They all do their own little, creative, unique thing. Well, this one, the idea is you're mashing things up together. So you can either use this really simple interface, or you can click start from scratch. And if you start from scratch, it's up to you to add 3 things. The subject, what is the image about? The scene, what scene are they in? And the style, artistically, how does it look? And then a fourth thing, describe what's happening in the scene. Now, I'm not going to do that myself. I'll just click the inspire me so it fills it in for me, but you can do it yourself. You can either type in a description of the subject or upload a picture. Same for the scene, same for the style. You can describe it or you can upload an image. I'm just going to hit inspire me, and it says, okay, let's do this. Let's use this person as our subject. Let's use this as our scene. Let's use this style. And let's describe this as a subject is riding a flying bike through the city, leaving behind streaks of light. And then I'll hit generate. And now it's going to take the subject, the scene, the style, the description, and it's going to put them all together. And we should get this person in this style. And there they are. There's that character in that style, in this scene, doing what it says. A bike flying through the city, leaving behind streaks of light. Love it. And of course, you can download, use these however you want. You can go in and make changes, etc., etc. So I like this because it allows you to have a little bit of guidance. Like if you're like, I've been using some AI, image generation tools, and I feel like I'm overwhelmed. I don't know how to get it to do what I want. This lets you have these little slots. Just upload a picture of what you want, the subject to be, or grab a style. I think I uploaded Van Gogh's Starry Night once. I'm like, hey, put it in this style. You can put your stuff or describe your stuff and have a little bit more control over it. So that's Whisk. Pretty cool. So that's a neat one for experimenting with art. Let's see what's next. Speaking of art and video or image, whoops, sorry. I just knocked my light over there. I know you can't see because I have my camera turned off, but I just hit my light. Okay, let's try that again, Eric. So state-of-the-art video and image generation with VO2 and Imagen 3. So I'm not going to demonstrate these. I actually don't have access to VO2 yet. Very few people have access to VO2. It is a video generation model similar to Sora from OpenAI, as well as many other ones out there. Only a handful of people have got access to it yet. But when Google announced this, it really caught a lot of people's attention because it's really good. So VO2 is their tool for creating videos. And the videos that have been put out from it are just stunning. They really are very, very, very detailed, very accurate. The guess is that this is because Google has access to all of YouTube. And so they probably used, YouTube to help train this model. And so heads up, it's coming soon. As soon as I get access to it, I'll be playing with it, but don't have it yet. And then Imagen 3, though, yes, this we do have access to in the sense that this is the behind the scenes image generation tool that is powering things like Gemini. If you go to Gemini and you ask Gemini to create an image for you, it's now using Imagen 3 rather than Imagen 2. So you may have noticed the images from Gemini, they're way better than they were, a few months ago. So
Eric, you had a question from Shannon about Whisk. Are there age restrictions?
I do not know. Thank you for the question. I'm going to say yes, because I think it's still being considered part of their AI labs, their experiments. Usually that's going to be 18 and above. So I apologize. We'd have to, if somebody wants to poke a stick, go on in and take a look. I do not know off the top of my head if that one is 13 and above or 18 and above, but I believe being part of like their AI labs, most of that's going to be 18 and above. So, but you could still do it as a teacher, demonstrating this in a class, an art class, talking about, creating, hybrid images, putting things together and stuff like that. All right, let's hit just a couple more things. That gets us through December. So we are now into January, and there's just a few things that have happened this month that I wanted to call out. One of the first things is a new feature in Google Classroom if you're using the AI upgrade. So notice the robot. Remember, I told you this is fundamentals, this is standard, this is teaching and learning, this is plus. The little robot emoji, that's if you purchase the Gemini AI upgrade. Now, this can be done for a handful of staff members. It can be done for the entire school. It is something that it can be purchased in whatever quantity you want. So like I have one license of this. Like I bought one license that I use. So I do have access to this. I'll have to bring up a different account that I've got it on. But so basically this is an update in Classroom. If you didn't know, and I totally understand, you might not realize this, because if you haven't bought it, if you haven't paid for the Gemini upgrade in Google Workspace, you would have no idea this even exists. But in Classroom, they've been adding in AI generation tools. And they most recently added a vocab list generator to Classroom. So let me show you. I'll demonstrate it here for you. Let me find my tab to bring this over. Give me just a second here. Here we go. So this is the account that I've got the upgraded one on. So this is my generative AI account I got one license for. So notice when I go to Classroom, I've got this other button or this tab on the side. I've got one called Gemini Education. So when I click on Gemini Education, I get outline a lesson plan, generate a quiz, relevel a text, craft a compelling hook, and here's the new one, create a vocabulary list. Now, if this looks familiar to you, it's because, 200 other tools do the same thing. Basically Magic School, EduAid, Almanac, Twee, Conmigo, Teacher Server. I mean, you name it. I mean, this is not revolutionary, I guess the idea is if a school is saying we can't use those tools because they have not signed our student data privacy agreement, or we can't use those tools because they're not approved, but we do have Google Workspace approved, then this gives a option to do this right here in Classroom in a tool that's already approved in your district. So, make a lesson plan, make a quiz, relevel a text, whatever. Well, the vocab list is the new one. And basically it's just this. You put in a grade level, you put in a topic. I'll just go with what they're suggesting, photosynthesis. And that's it. You hit generate. And in this case, it's making a vocab list. So what it's going to do is it's basically just going to create a table with, I think it shoots for around a dozen or 15 or so, somewhere in that neighborhood, terms that are related to the topic and that are appropriate for that grade level. It gives you the terms. So here's all the terms. It gives you their grammatical category, the part of speech. It gives you a definition of them in simple terms, and it gives you an example sentence with that word being used in context. If you like it, you click export to docs, boop, 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 boop. It does that. And once that's done, there you go. Now you've got your vocab list for that particular topic and that grade level. So on one hand, I want to say, thanks, Google. That's good. I mean, I'm not upset about this. I think this is good. This is a good thing, but I have to temper it because I think it's still pretty simple. I think the benefit here is that it's internal. It's part of Classroom. You're not using a third-party tool. You're not, getting some other, tool approved to use in your district. I will say though, again, it's something we saw, a year ago, or more from, probably, a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, we've seen tools doing this kind of thing. So I just think Google moves a lot slower. They want to really make sure that anything that they create has gone through rigorous testing. So I guess on one hand, these have been very thoroughly tested. And again, it's not a third-party tool. Having said that, and again, folks, I love Google. I love Google. I'm not trying to give them a hard time here. But having said that, I was curious, how easy would it be to replicate this some other way? And so I just started poking around and I said, what if I came up with my own prompt here? And so this is what I ended up coming up with. I said, what if I asked any AI tool, Gemini, ChatGPT, anything? Hey, you're an excellent teacher. You're highly skilled at explaining vocabulary terms to students. Generate a vocab list with the following criteria. The grade level is this. The topic is this. Come up with about 15 words that are integral to that topic and appropriate for that to that grade level. Provide a list of those in a table. Column 1 should be the term. Column 2, the parts of speech. Column 3, the definition. Column 4, an example sentence, And so if I do that, if I take that and I go to something like Gemini, and again, you could just use, Gemini, ChatGPT, whatever. And if I drop that in and I come in and say, okay, the grade level is, let's say 6th grade. And the topic is photosynthesis. And I drop that in. Hopefully, there it goes. Here's my terms, the parts of speech, the definition, the sentences. And again, I can just export that to Sheets, or I can send the whole thing over to Docs right from there and probably get pretty much the same thing. Let's see. Yep, there it is. I'd have to clean it up a little bit, but not all that different, from what got spit out there. So I'm curious what people think as far as, is this something that, we're just seeing the first couple examples. Give it time, and this page is going to explode with so many tools that this will be a one-stop shop for teachers. They're going to love it. It's going to be fantastic. I don't know. So anyway, just wanted to throw that out there again. Google, I love you guys. I appreciate everything you're doing. I just feel that sometimes this feels like I've stepped back in time about a year and a half to what other tools were doing. And I would love to see Google being a little more aggressive with developing these things. But thank you for what you've done. But I think I would love to see that develop a lot further. So I don't know, John, you got any thoughts on that about what they're doing? Because again, we were talking about, hey, if somebody's going to pay, and this isn't even plus. We're not talking about doing the plus upgrade. This is separate. This is a whole other cost. This is either $20 a month or $30 a month, depending upon if you're going with the limited or unlimited version of it. Per staff member, that's a big sell. That's a big ask to say, this isn't even plus. If this was part of plus, that would be a whole different world to say, oh, you get plus, you get this. But no, this is an extra cost that it has to compete with Magic School. It has to compete with Brisk Teaching. It has to compete with all these things, which are also, 10, 15, $20 a month or something like that. I don't know. What are your thoughts, John?
I think that this is going to be in the next 6 months a very competitive space, because I think, we mentioned the Gemini upgrade. Some schools are looking at getting the increasing the tier that they have for their Google WORKSPACE, but then there's also the Gemini upgrade, and then they're measuring what value they get from a lot of other tools. And I think there's going to be some announcements from some of the other companies. I think we're going to get some at OETC. And certainly if you've been watching Magic School, they're adding tools on a regular basis. And I think that Google's going to have to innovate pretty drastically if they're going to keep up with some of these other companies who are being very, very aggressive about how they're adding features and going after market share.
I would agree with you, John. And again, I get it. I understand. These other companies have nothing to lose. Google does, they have their reputation. They have to make sure that anything they put out is high quality. Startups can be agile. They can throw things at the wall and see what sticks. If something goes wrong, they're like, hey, we're trying to figure this out. Google can't do that. I totally get that. I respect that. I appreciate that. But I also agree. I think they could be moving way faster than they're moving, but that's just my opinion. I am not employed by Google. I am not in any way a part of that. This is just Eric's opinion. I am incredibly appreciative of all they have done, but I agree. I think they could be moving a lot quicker with getting these AI tools out there in front of people, because these startups are creating just incredible goodwill with so many schools and millions of users, and becoming very entrenched in those schools. And I don't know. But anyway, again, I would say this is not bad. There's nothing negative about this. This is all good. The only challenge is, it's pretty expensive to sell people on that. Now, don't get me wrong. That $20 a month, $30 a month, this is not all it gives you. There is a massive host of other features. I do an entire session where I do a deep dive. One of my training sessions is on Google AI tools. And oh my gosh, no. This puts AI into docs and slides and sheets and forms and Google Meet and Drive and Gmail. And no, trust me, it does way more than this, but just wanted to get your take on that. I did see Dan asked, he said, didn't Google add the Gemini add-ons for free to the business top tier plan? Well, Dan, the short answer is yes. The long answer is no. So the short answer is, if you have a business plan, not education, but business plan, they've included the Gemini add-ons for free in quotation marks. Why? Because they raised the price of the plan. So they did, but they actually bumped up the price. So it's kind of I don't know, probably a net positive, but they bumped up the price. So that did just happen. All right. Oh, and somebody did, following back around, said they pulled up the terms of service for Whisk. Our services are not intended for children under the age of 18. I thought that would be accurate, because that is more of their experimental stuff there. And that is pretty consistent for that. All right. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and keep on moving here and see what else we got. I think we're close to the end of the updates. Google Classroom added the ability to grade all. This is something that I'm so glad they added. I really thought we would have had this sooner, but now when you go to the gradebook and you click on the little three dots at the top, there's the option to choose grade all and put in a grade for all of the students, rather than having to go down and do that individually there. So it's not a big update, but it's a very welcomed one that I think is a critical. I mean, I remember when I worked at North Canton back, oh my gosh, we're talking, let me think here, guys. 20 years ago, this would have been. I remember when we rolled out a grade book for the entire district to use. And I remember that being a feature, just a standard feature of electronic grade books, to grade all. So definitely due time that got added. So I'm glad to see that's there, and that's available for everybody. Next up, real quick, Google Classroom has also, if you're using Teaching and Learning or Plus, they've expanded the read along feature to now include specific data on phonics-based performance. So the short thing to this is, Read Along is a completely free tool from Google if you go to the website for Read Along, but it's also integrated into Classroom if you pay Teaching and Learning or Plus tier. So you can go to the Read Along website and use it on its own. But if you want it integrated into Classroom, that's the Teaching and Learning or Plus tier. And what it does is it pushes out leveled books to your kids. They read the book literally aloud. The AI listens to them while they read, and it checks their proficiency as far as, fluency, accuracy, speed, all those things, tracks all that. Fantastic for especially early readers. Well, the new feature is phonics analysis. So now there'll be a tab where it'll look at, the blends, the consonants, the different phonetic skills, and it will actually track not just accuracy, not just comprehension, but phonics analysis as well. This will only be for new books that you assign going forward. If you did an assignment a month ago, it will not retroactively go back in and apply the phonics analysis just going forward. It will do that. And that is for their decodable books in there. So if you do that, good stuff. Next up, BETT. This is a big EdTech conference that happens in London every January. We just had the BETT conference about 2 weeks ago here. And Google, as always, announces a giant list of things. Here's the deal this time around. They announced a lot, but to my ability to process this, I believe there was only one truly new thing. And that's what I did a blog post about called Class Tools. So I'm going to chat about Class Tools really quick, but please check out here's all their blog posts. They did all these blog posts, including this product guide that's really nice. It lists these are all of the things. I think they and I use announced very loosely here. They announced 46 things, but honestly, I'm going to say 45 of them, I'm pretty sure, were announced in the past. They're just kind of pulling them together in one place. It's good stuff. This is all good stuff. But e-signatures and PDFs and, Google Vids, none of that is new. None of that was oh, we've never heard of this before. Bulk grading, we just talked about that. So, but what was new is something called Class Tools. And John, this is what I was hinting at earlier when I said, hey, you know what? Google's releasing some things that might actually be able to save schools money if they go to Plus and cancel other subscriptions. This is potentially one of those things. So here's the blog post, excuse me. Here's the blog post I did on Class Tools. I'm going to pull that up only because I'm more familiar with the way I laid it out. So I'm going to run through my layout here. Basically, Class Tools is similar to something like Securely, GoGuardian, Hapara, Dino, Land School, basically tools that currently schools are using to help manage Chromebooks in the classroom. So classroom management of Chromebooks, that's really common. I would be hard pressed to imagine any school that has a significant Chromebook usage that isn't paying for some kind of tool to help manage those. And if not, they wish they could have that feature. So first thing I'm going to say right away is this is only for the Education Plus tier. So that's what we were saying earlier. This is a paid tier. But if you can say, well, I can cancel, and I'm not saying that you would, but I'm saying if you go, hey, you know what, actually, I can cancel one of these other services because now this takes care of it, it would make this Plus tier much more attractive for you. Or if you already have the Plus tier, then that's a really big benefit. So what is this? Well, basically, and this is not rolled out yet. It is early access. Here's a form you can fill out. I filled it out already myself. So as soon as it's available, you will be notified of it or to, get early access to it as well. Here's the deal. Basically, let's say I'm a teacher. I got a classroom full of Chromebooks. The teacher can go in to their Class Tools app and they can start a session. They can start a class. They can set a time limit, 15 minutes, an hour, or whatever long it needs to be. Then students can join that class. You can do it a couple of ways. You can just pick your students from a Google Classroom roster and it just, joins them in or sends them an invite. Either way, it pulls those students into the session. Or you can put up a code and the kids can type in the code. So if you're not using Classroom for rostering, you can just give them a code and they can type it in. Then once they've joined, you can push content to them. A teacher can grab content and send it to, all of the students, some of the students, just those in certain classrooms, totally up to you. The type of thing you can push out: classroom assignments, YouTube videos, Google Documents, tabs that you have open. Hey, here's this website I want us all to look at and go to. So you can push content out to the students. When you do that, there's this button that says lock class tools to student devices. Folks, I looked and looked and looked, and I could not find a thorough explanation of that. If somebody knows, please let me know. I'm sure more documentation is going to come. This was me doing my sleuthing to put this together. All these screenshots and stuff, I tried to dissect every one of them and try to figure out what all this meant. They've been a little sparse in their documentation at the moment. I think this means that if you say lock, then the students aren't going to be able to close out of that. It's going to force it onto their screen and they can't exit out of that. That's what my guess is. And it does show that the students get a little message that says, hey, your teacher's pinned this to your screen. After that, this I thought was cool. Not only can you push content out to your students, you can limit how they navigate within that content. So you can say, I'm going to give you this YouTube video and that's it. You can't do anything else. You can't go to a different video. Or I'm going to give you this website. You got to stay on the page we're on. You can say, where are they allowed to navigate? Just the page, anywhere on that site, one link away from the page, or anywhere on the site and one link away. So you can kind of say, okay, you can just view this page and that's it. you can't start wandering off and going to other things. And then screen sharing and viewing. So a teacher has the option to share their screen to students' devices. So you can push your screen out to them so they can see something you're demonstrating right up front. And there's the option for teachers to view student screens. You can click view student screen and you can see what the student has on their screen. The student is notified. It pops up and says in 3 seconds, your teacher will start viewing your screen. And then it says that the teacher is viewing your screen. Somebody had asked a question in our Q&A. Is this similar to these Chromebook management tools where you see this big grid of everybody in your class with a little thumbnail of what's on their screen? I don't think so yet. This doesn't imply that. It says view student screen, not screens. I think it's an individual thing. I would think they would have to eventually add that, though, where you could just see the entire class as a whole bunch of thumbnails. But I don't see anything yet that implies that. It looks like it's a single screen at the moment.
Eric, do you want to comment about Senate Bill 29 as relates to the features in this tool?
Well, so as far as Senate Bill 29 goes, I am not the right person to speak in detail about that, but I'll tell you the little bit of what I know. And that is, for those in Ohio, we all know about it. If you're not from Ohio, you probably have a similar thing. So if you're tuning out because you're like, oh, this is Ohio. No, most every state has something like this. Basically, Senate Bill 29 was saying that it was trying to protect. Let's put it, anytime you access student data, if you were doing something with student data, Senate Bill 29 seemed to be indicating that you would have to alert parents that you had accessed student data. The bill was worded poorly, a little vaguely, and it caused a lot of concern in the fall, where people were saying, if we take this literally, there's nothing we can do with technology that won't generate an alert to notify a parent. Parents will be getting hundreds of alerts per day. This is not realistic. Correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is the legislation came back into session and said, oh, that's not what we meant. Here, let's reword this. And that is not what it says now. Basically, what it is saying now is more along the line of, if there is student data information that is critical, like, I don't know, maybe dealing with self-harm or a threat or something like that, that kind of stuff absolutely parents need to be notified about that. But it is no longer this incredibly vague, broad thing that, anytime you looked at a student's Google Doc to grade their essay, you're going to have to send an email home. That's not the case. But I am not a lawyer. I am not on your board of education. I am not your administrator. Talk to your school about that. But no, I don't think this would be as much of a problem now that they're reinterpreting the intention of that Senate bill. But with everything you do, of course, we have to have, we have to get parents' permission, or we have to send home every year, the technology agreement form that notifies parents these are the tools that we are using, and getting permission to do that. So this would fall under that, which every school's already doing, but I don't think it would be specifically a problem with Senate Bill 29. But that's just my take on it. I don't know. Anything to add to that, John?
I would just add that the best advice is that your school should seek legal advice before doing anything like that. But to stay in compliance, the lawyers are definitely the ones that know the answers. And you're right, it has been revised, and the newest outlines, I think, are a little bit more realistic.
Yes.
But it's certainly something that is very much a moving target.
Right. Well, with that said, the last couple things we know about this new feature is that students can click a raise a hand button to say they need help, and the teacher gets notified of that. And this, I love this. Oh my gosh, this is so nice. Captions and translations. So basically, here's the idea. A teacher can turn on an option for captions. And if they do, it'll basically show what they're saying live in class. So while I'm speaking, my words will just appear on my screen. The teacher can choose to show the captions on their own screen if they want. The teacher on their own screen, so like up on the projector. So when you're watching the projector, the teacher's projecting the screen, everything the teacher is saying is automatically being transcribed right onto the screen. The teacher can also turn on this option for the student screens. If they do that, a student can flip a switch that says, show captions of my teacher's voice. So even if the teacher's not intentionally putting them up there, if they let the students do it, a student could say, I would benefit from this. They can flick that on, and right at their desk, they can see everything the teacher is saying captioned for them. And it gets better. The teacher and the students can also choose the language they want that in. So you could have an English language learner sitting in class who says, I'm going to turn on the captions and I'm going to flip them into Spanish. And every single thing the teacher says in class, boom, is showing up on that student's Chromebook, translated into their preferred language. That's fantastic. There's a lot of tools that have been poking a stick at that, trying to find a way to do that. To have that just built right into Chromebooks and to be part of this system, I think would be an incredible benefit, not just for students who are English language learners, not just for a student who maybe has a hearing challenge. Everybody can benefit from this. I use captions. I know I've said it before. I turn captions on anytime I'm watching a movie, a TV show. It allows you to pick up things you miss otherwise. And so this can be a benefit for everybody. So that's what I know about class tools at the moment. I would encourage you to read Google's blog posts here about it. I would encourage you to go to the link I have near the top of this and sign up to say you're interested. This form takes you to this form. We can say, yep, I'm interested in class tools. I'd like to be notified when we can try this out. And let's see where it goes. Hopefully a lot more will come out, but this was my distillation. I basically watched, these were from GIFs. They had a bunch of GIFs. I went frame by frame through the GIFs, and I took screenshots, and I kind of went through and like dissected everything. Like, okay, oh, that's what's happening. Oh, that's what's happening. So I could have made a mistake in my interpretation of some of these things, but this was my best shot at making sense out of everything that they had shared there. All right, good stuff. All right, let's see. Anything else to mention before we put this section to bed? Real quick, they just announced this yesterday. Admins will now have the ability to do some more customization of the Chrome Web Store. So when a student or a staff member goes to the Chrome Web Store to look for extensions, you will have the ability to actually customize what the Chrome Web Store looks like, including curated collections. In the past, there's always been a single link that says, here's the extensions that your school recommends. But no, we can actually now go in and make sub collections like, hey, here's the extensions we recommend for accessibility or this or that or whatever. So more control over branding, custom messaging. So basically, you can make the Chrome Web Store look how you want it. And really direct your users to the tools you're hoping they will use. And then lastly, hey, we got to have a little bit of fun. This just got announced yesterday, a new interactive search game. If you go to Google search, if you search for snake game, you can play a snake game. If you search for solitaire, you can play solitaire. Well, now if you search for block breaker, if I go to Google search and I type in block breaker, I now can play Breakout, basically. Now, keep in mind, there's a bunch of games here. There's, Snake, Tic-Tac-Toe. There's a memory game, Minesweeper, Pac-Man. These have been around. Solitaire. These have been around for a long, long time. This is the new one. If you hit play, basically you move back and forth and you press up on the arrow, and there we go. There's Breakout. And so you can play Breakout right there. Okay, well, I'll stop because so if you want to have a little bit of fun, nice to know that is inside of Google search. All right, we're going to move on to show and tell, and I'm going to let people know right ahead. I'm going to try to keep this part quick. Sometimes I know we set a hard limit of 2 hours on our meetings. I'm going to try to bring this one a little bit shorter, just because I have another meeting after this one. And so I have got to then get myself physically to another meeting. So I'm going to try to move a little quicker on these last things. But before I switch over to show and tell, John, did you see anything else from that long list of things we covered? Something we should talk about, a question, a comment, anything else that's critical?
No, there were some people that were comparing those class tools with Hapara and a couple of those other tools. And yeah, I think this is an area that is going to obviously they're going to do some more innovation, and some things will kind of will start to become clearer. But I imagine probably we'll have a whole lot of announcements in the summer again, and we'll have some things ready for next fall.
Yes. Yeah, I would imagine so. All right. Well, next up, show and tell. So this is the portion of the meeting where we share cool things we've come across, neat things we've created, things we've learned about, whatever the case is. Just show and tell. I will not go through all of the things I have here, but I'll mention some of my recent blog posts. As always, Stephanie and Sarah, they're not able to be with us this time, but as always, they have great resources. Sarah has her weekly newsletter. Stephanie has her Google group. John, you've got a few things here. Why don't you start, and then I'll follow you while I'm doing that. Community members, anybody listening, if you have something to add, the GEG Community Show and Tell is a great place to do that. Feel free to add to that portion if there's something you want to share. So, John, what did you want to say about some of the things you've got going on here? I'll click.
Well, I have been working with a couple of other agencies and with the Ohio Learning Community, and this particular one here, this Foundations of Instructional Coaching, is a course that they were working on, and it took a while to kind of get it finished, but it's actually ready. And anybody in the state of Ohio is welcome to enroll in this course on the Learning Community, and it is a free course. Anybody that's interested in becoming an instructional coach, which is one of the newer positions that seem to be getting created in school districts. This is a course that you can take. And so we're just announcing that it's become officially available. And there are 3 or 4 other courses that were recently kind of like Google. You said that I don't know if this is a new announcement, but certainly Foundations of Instructional Coaching was released, I think, last week. So it is a new one.
And I love the fact that this is free. There's an option for college credit if they want to do that. But wow, that is fantastic.
And then the other good news is that this was a grant-funded project that we put together, and we have secured continuing funding from the Department of Education and Workforce to keep the project going at least another year.
Love it.
And so it's available there, so teachers can sign up for free. You just go to the website, ohiolaearningcommunity.org, and you can use your Google account to set up an account, and then you can just go in and self-register for these courses. So the other new one is the paraprofessionals course, which will be of interest to people who work in the educational service centers, especially as it deals with student behavior. And I think that's something post-COVID that a lot of paraprofessionals are dealing with. So some of the experts at the SCs got their heads together and created this course for the paraprofessionals. So
Love
just
it.
a couple of updates from the Ohio learning community.
Excellent. Anything else you want to add there then?
No, I think that's
Okay.
all I've got.
All right. Love it. Thank you so much, John. So as far as things I have shared recently, as always, I've got links here to, my email newsletter and so forth. That's an easy way to stay in the loop on stuff. I'm still trying to do my EdTech links of the week. You can always check on those. I try to share several neat new things every week. But some of the stuff that I have been sharing on my blog recently, I've got several videos or webinars that I've done recently. As far as classic webinars go, here's one on Chrome extensions. This one is a 72-minute long webinar that covers 17 of my favorite Chrome extensions, as well as just how to use Chrome extensions in general. As with all of mine, you can just watch them on YouTube normally, or you can go through the Edpuzzle link here to get a PD certificate for them as well. So that one's all about 17 of my favorite Chrome extensions, all educational extensions, how you can use them educationally. Then this other one, Google Sheets for Educators or Anyone, is likewise a recorded video that's a little bit longer than my normal hour-long ones. This one's 80 minutes long because you got a lot of stuff to cover there. This one is a deep dive into Google Sheets. It does focus on educators, but anybody can benefit from this. We basically run through everything from sorting to filtering data, formulas, charts and graphs, spark lines, conditional formatting, data validation, pivot tables, and so forth. So that's a great one. If you have never used Sheets before, it'll get you where you need to be. If you have, hopefully you'll pick up some new ideas. And then most recently, here are two shorter videos. They're not classic webinars. These were both done at FETC. So I did some booth sessions at FETC. One of them was for Magic School, and one of them was for Brisk Teaching. If you follow the one for Brisk Teaching, here's a 25-minute video I did there at that booth. And here's the one for Magic School. Here's the video I did at that booth. Both of these focus on pretty much the same idea, student use. So in Magic School, they've got what they call rooms that you can set up where students can join and have a chat with the AI chatbots you have set up. And Brisk has something called a boost activity, which is, again, an AI chatbot that students can chat with to complete an activity. This goes into all the details on these as to how that works, how you as a teacher monitor this so it's school safe and student friendly, how you set it up, how the students interact with it. I've got a couple more that I'll be posting in the next few weeks because I also did a booth session for Class Companion and a booth session for School AI. But these two I've got, just takes a little while to edit stuff and get it put up there. Beyond that, speaking of conferences, ISTE, here's my ISTE sessions. Here's the SequoiaCon one. AI-related things I've shared recently. I did a blog post on prompting. I've meant to do this one for a long time and just finally got around to doing it. This is a blog post where I share what I consider to be the top 10 important pieces of a prompt. In no way am I saying that you should use all 10 of these in a single prompt, but I'm saying these are the things that help make a good AI prompt. And I go through all 10 of these individually, explaining what they are, how they work, giving examples of them. And so you could say when you're creating a prompt, again, don't try to use all 10, but think of these things and say, how can I incorporate those in? And so I've got lots of examples here of prompts that I have used that take pieces from these and incorporate them in. So that's there. And of course, with all of those sessions, just for clarity, there is also resources. Like I've got a session resource document here that you can access called AI Prompt Engineering, and I've got the entire slideshow here as well. was having fun. I called it World of Prompt Craft because I was a World of Warcraft player. I don't know if I'll leave that there, but I thought it was cute. So that's what I named it. But the whole slideshow's there, and the resource document is here as well. So all of that stuff is available to use however you need to. Let's see. And then I did a quick AI spotlight, AI tool spotlight on Teacher Server. Check that out. It's an awesome alternative to a lot of the prompt websites out there. It is free to use. It is run by a university in Florida that is grant funded. So it allows you to generate all kinds of things, lesson plans and rubrics and all those kind of things, but totally free, which is really, really nice. Other things, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, we already talked about that. I think most of the rest of it, you're probably feel free to investigate if you want to. I will mention though, real quick, since we're knocking on the door of February, this is not a new post. This is from last year, but I went ahead and put in my Googly Valentine's activities from last year. So if you're looking for a fun thing to do with kids in the next coming weeks related to Valentine's Day, this is a collection of 4 Google activities that tie into the theme, but also support writing, critical thinking, stuff like that. So there's the hearts and charts Google Sheets math activity, where you use those conversation hearts and you go through this whole mathematics activity as you process through a box of conversation hearts and learn about, adding, subtracting, and, graphing and all kinds of things like that. I've got the Valentine Emoji Rebus Stories project. I've got the Valentine's Magnetic Poetry activity, and I've got the Valentine's Cards with Google Drawings activity. So all of those are there and freely available to use however you want. All right. Well, that brings us to our final section, which is Q&A. And let's see what we got here. I think the first one we already answered. That was, do we know if the new class tools feature will allow teachers to view thumbnails of all of their students' screens at once? And this was the answer I gave earlier. From what I have seen, nothing indicates that yet. It's definitely a single student screen, but I do not know about multiples. Next question, is there an AI tool that would take a short story and create an audio file? Any fun voice AI tools? There are so many that can do this. This is a great question. This is a very short list of possibilities. I guarantee you there's lots more. I added this one in because it's free. For teachers, Read and Write, the extension. As an educator, you're allowed to have the premium version of Read and Write at no cost. It has an audio maker tool that does exactly that. You can give it a Google document with the entire short story, and it will create an MP3 file of it being read in whichever voice you choose. If you want to learn more about that, pop into my document here. This is my Read and Write tips session that I do. It's a training session I do on Read and Write. Here you'll find things like the link to install Read and Write, as well as the link to say, hey, I'm a teacher, and get the entire premium version for free. And it also goes in and explains how the audio maker works and how you can do that. So that would be great. Speaking of other ones though, the 11 Labs, yes, I have an 11 Labs subscription. I think I pay like $4 a month for it, but it gives me a lot more usage. And yeah, I love 11 Labs. That's wonderful. Yeah, you can pick so many voices. I've cloned my own voice, so I can, who knows, maybe it's not me speaking right now. Maybe it's 11 Labs. No, it is me, but I can use my own voice and have it say things in my voice, or I can pick from thousands of voices and have it read things in those voices. Again, I pay like $4 a month just so I have a little bit more usage of it. Murph AI, heard about it, never used it, but thanks for sharing that, whoever shared that. Good stuff. Nicole said that Read and Write just added 11 Labs voices. That's good to know. And you know what, Nicole, I didn't know that. I know they've mentioned that for a long time, that they were going to add more realistic voices. Their voices were good. Don't get me wrong. They were really good. But that's great to know, Nicole. I'm so glad. I'm going to have to go take that for a spin. Just released last Monday. Oh, awesome. Okay. Well, that's something else I got to explore then. That's great. What's this last thing? The option in YouTube doesn't appear to be available for everyone yet. This is a training I uploaded a few days ago. So people were saying they went into one of my YouTube videos and they were looking for the language translation. The issue here is the fact it's actually the video you picked. This video doesn't have the, I know I just uploaded it the other day. This one doesn't have that multiple language option. I'm not sure why. I actually meant to look into this. This is the one on Whisk. I think it's because there was too much background noise. This was done in the expo hall, and I tried my best to post-process. Actually, I took the audio and I ran it through 11 labs to try to clean it up. I used it to try to remove the crowd noises, but unfortunately, I don't think it did well enough. And I think there's too much background noise. And I think that's why YouTube's multilingual dubbing failed on it. So if you try some of my other videos, like the one I did on the 1 word a day, you should see the option to pick a different audio track. But no, it's not going to work on this one, and I'm not sure why. I'm thinking it was just too much background noise, and that's why it failed. Okay, well, folks, that gets us through our meeting. So we're going to do a couple things as we wrap up. Let's go ahead and pop back up on the screen so people can see it really is us, not 11 labs pretending to be us. It really, unless it's, I don't know, maybe it's an AI video model that's pretending to be us. That would be nice because I've got somewhere to be. I could use the AI to take my place. So as we start to wrap up, first of all, John, if you want to look through and see if we missed anything, please feel free to do so and alert me to anything that I missed that needed to address. But I just want to, first of all, thank everybody once again. Thank you so much. It's a big commitment for you to take an hour and a half or 2 hours out of your day and join us live. Thank you. For those that are watching recorded, fantastic as well. I really appreciate you taking the time to learn with us. I would say please do continue coming back. Our next one is February 27th, I believe. Let's look at our meeting. Yes, February 27th will be our next one. I'll add in the links for the agenda and the live video and stuff later, but I haven't put those in yet, but that'll be at the end of February. Consider joining the group. If you haven't joined the GEG Ohio group, under the important links, please be sure you sign in. If you didn't sign in, you still can do that now. That way we'll have record of your attendance and I can send you a certificate for being a part of this. Other than that, John, anything that we missed? I think you're muted.
That wasn't intentional. I was clicking around the screen and I must have hit that button.
I gotcha.
Yeah, no, I think we covered everything. So I know you've got to get out of here.
Yeah,
so
I got to get going.
I would like to say thanks to everybody for attending this month, and we'll see you next month.
All right. Thanks so much, John. I appreciate it. Could not do this without you. And thanks to everybody for all of your contributions. See you next month. Take care.